I just wanted to take this time to welcome you to the first series here of our series, Protecting Your Marriage Against Coronavirus. And so this is a new sort of webinar that we're trying. So hopefully everything works okay. So I'll ask for y'all's feedback very soon. What I want you to do right now, since you're already here, for those of you coming in, grab paper and pens because you guys will need it. I want to make sure you guys have that because this seminar will be very much interactive. All right. So we'll give everyone another few minutes and then we'll get started shortly. So as I said, this is going to be a 4-part series on how to protect your marriage throughout and during the coronavirus. And today's the first day, part 1, is the single secret to surviving and flourishing in close quarters. So before we begin, I'm going to have a quick word of prayer, and then we will get right into it. Here we go. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for bringing us together. Technology is awesome and its ability to do just that. And so I ask that you would be with us, that you would be with all the technology, that it works according to plan here, and that together we can navigate the quarantine waters. Teach us the single secret. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Okay, so first, again, if you have your paper and pens, this is where you start writing. I want, as we're going to go through this journey together, the first 2 words that I need to define for you is a symptom versus a root. A symptom versus a root. Now, a symptom is an indicator that a problem already exists, whereas a root is the underlying cause or the fundamental essence. The root is what causes the symptom. So let's take coronavirus, for example. The CDC has said that the following symptoms will appear between 2 to 14 days after exposure. And these symptoms include, but are not limited to, fever, cough, shortness of breath. So the symptom would be fever, cough, shortness of breath, but the root or the underlying issue as to why you're experiencing these symptoms is, well, hopefully you don't have it, but coronavirus. Now, the same is true in our relationships, and the same is true for our fights. So you see, you and I, at times, we get so caught up with the symptoms that we pass by the roots completely unnoticed. One of the main reasons people fight, at least I see it with my clients all the time, is a fight about money. So I'm going to ask you real quick, have you ever fought about money? Send a Y for yes and an N for no. Have you and your spouse ever fought about money? And I'll be the first one there to write a yes. You know, Renee and I have had some, sorry? Oh, Renee's going to create a poll, even better. Renee's going to create a poll that says, have you ever fought over money, yes or no? But I've soon realized that the fight about money isn't about money at all. You're saying, wait, Amanda, I'm so confused. What do you mean? You just told me, have you ever fought about money? And that if I answer yes, you're telling me that I'm fighting about money, but I'm not really fighting about money? Yeah, exactly. And here's why. I'm going to explain to you why. Now, Dr. John Gottman, he's a researcher that I really like, and he wanted to find out exactly this point. Do people really fight about money? And is this fight about money? And so he got a group of 8-year-olds and he started to ask them, he asked them one question. He's like, listen, I need you guys to give me money advice. You see, your mom is fighting, your dad is fighting, a mom is fighting, a dad is fighting, and I want you guys to help me figure this out. This is him telling these 8-year-olds. And he goes, so look, they can't stop fighting. If we figure this out for them, they'll stop fighting and they'll love each other more. All the kids understood. They're like, okay. And so he begins to tell them a little story. He goes, so the husband's story works a little something like this. I don't want to save for tomorrow. I want to live today. I want to spend my money now, and I want to enjoy my life. I don't want to be like how my father was. He always saved and saved and saved. And then the time ran out, and he was no longer able to truly enjoy his life. And I do not want to do that. That's the father's side. And so the kids are sitting there, they're hearing to everything he's saying, and he goes, okay, now I'm going to tell you the wife's story, the wife's side. The wife says, listen, my family grew up very poor. We never had any money when emergencies came up or if someone got sick. We never had enough because we would never plan for the future. When my parents got older, guess what? They couldn't retire. They had to keep working hard. I don't want to be like my parents. Now, here's the problem. One wants to overspend, one wants to save forever, and they're stuck in what I like to call a gridlock, right? It's extremely difficult for them to get out of this situation, this problem. And so Dr. Gottman looks at these kids and he says, what should this mom and what should this dad do? And the kids, they're thinking there, they're squirming in their seats, they're shooting their hands up. And one kid goes, I know, how about let's save some and then let's spend some. All the kids looked around, they nodded to each other, and they're like, yeah, what he says, save some and spend some. Now, you see, the 8-year-old believes that the couple should work out a compromise. The 8-year-old believes that this is like, hey, what's the big deal, right? I could be a therapist. I just solved their problem. And so when we think about our own money situation, it seems so easy that even an 8-year-old could solve, which is what the point that Dr. Gottman wanted to prove. However, what the 8-year-old does not understand is that the fights about money go far beyond money. It's really what's underneath the dollar value. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Kyle Benson says it like this: arguments about money aren't about money. Instead, they are about dreams, your fears, and your inadequacies. My brother, when he was little, we are an immigrant family. We came from Brazil, and in the beginning, as you can imagine, my parents struggled a lot with this whole money thing. It was so hard for us to save, and my brother and I always knew that if we wanted something, we'd have to save up a lot for it, and sometimes we'd be in a really tough situation where we didn't have the money to help, or we got sick and we didn't have the money there. My mom had to work so hard, and you didn't get the money there. And so my brother, when he was little, he would always say this, Mandy, he calls me Mandy, Mandy, when I grow up, I'm going to have lots and lots of money. Mandy, I'm going to be a doctor because money will never be a problem. So the symptom is my brother wants money. But what is the root? The root is that his past experiences of suffering because of lack of money, now he wants to create a life for him that he has stability. So do you see where it's not about money at all, but the stability that money would bring? Again, arguments about money are rarely ever about the money, but instead they are about our dreams, our fears, and our inadequacies. Now, couples do the same thing whenever you're fighting. Think about the last fight that you had, that fight that you fight every single day, sometimes weeks, sometimes months. You're constantly fighting about the same things. I call it the unsolvable problem. And the reason why it goes unsolved is because we stay very much at the surface level, where we start to treat the symptoms and not the roots. So for example, fights like house chores, fights about money, as I just mentioned, fights about the children, who's going to pick them up, who's going to make dinner, who's going to clean the house. These are some of the frequent fights that we have. And why do we keep having them? Well, because we're not really solving the root issue. We're staying at the symptoms. We're staying at the surface. So before I reveal to you what is the single secret of surviving and flourishing in the close quarters that you are now in, right? You guys are shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow, they're together in the trenches. I'm going to share with you what will destroy and wither your relationship. And you're going to want to write this down. What will destroy and wither your relationship is this. Write it down. Negative regard. Negative regard. I'm going to read to you a little quote here, and I'm going to read it verbatim so I make sure I don't leave anything out. Dr. John Gottman, he defines this negative regard or this negative perspective as the following. He goes, negative perspective as an overriding sense of negative regard, when even neutral or positive actions from your partner are skewed in your mind to be perceived as negative. So he's saying, listen, when you already have an override of negative regard, even when your spouse is doing something positive, you automatically, because it's your default, are perceiving it as negative. And then he continues, this often manifests itself in feelings of loneliness, powerlessness, and eventually one or both partners begin to distance themselves from each other, what I like to call the invisible divorce. He continues, when your feelings are predominantly negative, every action, every bid for attention, every joke or mistake can be interpreted through what? The negative lens, whether or not it deserves to be seen that way. So all of that to say, if you already have a negative regard about your spouse, even if they're doing very positive things, even if they said a joke that really wasn't mean, it wasn't to attack you, you are going to perceive it as negative. And because of it, you're going to start experiencing loneliness, powerlessness, feelings in your marriage, whether you're experiencing it alone or you're both sharing it together, causing this invisible divorce. So again, what will destroy and wither your relationship? Negative regard. Now, Amanda, what is going to flourish my relationship? What is going to bring life to my relationship? If you have your Bible there with you, go to 1 Samuel 16. 1 Samuel 16. There's an interesting little story here. And at this time, the king that was in charge, his name was King Saul. However, King Saul was distancing himself from God, and so God was going to take him out of his position of leadership, and he was going to bring upon the nation another king. And Samuel was the guy, he was the prophet that God gave this very important mission to. He says, listen, Samuel, I want you to go and I want you to anoint the next king because Saul, he's not cutting it. And so Samuel was very scared because he's like, hey, if Saul finds out what I'm doing, he's going to kill me. God is like, yeah, you're going to go anyways, and this is what I need you to do. So we're going to pick it up here. 1 Samuel chapter 16, beginning on verse 3, okay? So the first 3 verses is just Samuel saying, God, I'm so scared, he's going to kill me. And so it says this, then invite Jesse to sacrifice, and I will show you what you shall do. You shall anoint for me the one I name you, right? This is his instruction. This is his duty. And so verse 4 it says, so Samuel did what the Lord said and went to Bethlehem. And the elders of the town trembled at his coming and said, do you come peaceably? And he said, yes, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Sanctify yourselves and come with me to sacrifice. Then he consecrated Jesse and his sons and invited them to sacrifice. Now listen closely. So it was when they came that he looked at Eliab and said, surely the Lord's anointed is before me. But the Lord whispered in Samuel's ear, no, Samuel, he says, do not look at his appearance or his physical stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord does not, this is my favorite part, for the Lord does not see as man sees, for a man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Okay, so look, so Jesse called, I'm going to just obliterate these people's names, I don't know how to pronounce this, Abinadab, and made him pass before Samuel. And he said, neither has the Lord chosen this one. Then Jesse made Shammah pass by, and he said, neither has the Lord chosen this one. So all of the sons from oldest to youngest is passing in front of Samuel, and Samuel's like, okay, it has to be this guy. God's like, no. Okay, it has to be this guy. This guy, look at the biceps on this guy, God. Are you kidding me? He would be an awesome leader. And God's like, yeah, not him either. And so he eventually gets, look at what verse 10 says. Thus Jesse made 7 of his sons pass before him, and Samuel said to Jesse, the Lord has not chosen any of these. He's like, okay, is this some kind of joke? God sends me all the way here. I have literally met all of the 7 sons of this man, and still none of these are good enough. God hasn't chosen any of these. And so Samuel's like, hey, Jesse, are we missing one? And Jesse's like, I mean, yeah, but he doesn't even count. His name is David, but he tends the sheep. He's a shepherd. And Samuel's like, listen, I'm just as confused as you, my man, but God wants me to meet him. So can you call the boy? And so, mind you, scholars have thought that, David was about like a teenager. Let's put him at like 15 years old. He's just a boy. And so look, verse 11, and Samuel said to Jesse, are all the young men here? Then he said, there remains yet the youngest, and there he is, keeping the sheep. And Samuel said to Jesse, send and bring him, for we will not sit down till he comes. So he went and brought him in. Now he was ruddy with bright eyes, good looking. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is the one. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brothers, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. Okay, so remember, we are, Renee's hovering. What's going on? Battery. Renee's like 82%, babe. We're good. Okay, so check this out. Samuel has just gone to realize what God just says. Listen, Samuel, God does not look at the appearance, but God looks at the inside. People look at the outward appearance, it says, but the Lord looks at the heart. Now, let's backtrack with me. Remember, we're talking about the difference between a root and a symptom. I just explained to you that money isn't really the reason why people are fighting. Money is the symptom, but the root is maybe stability, how you grew up. Maybe it's because you were poor, or maybe it's because you're really rich and your parents never spent money on anything. And you thought, I'm not going to live my life this way. There's more to money, let's say, than meets the eye, as was the case for my brother. Now, we also saw that what does not help your relationship is having a negative regard toward your spouse. That will destroy and that will wither your relationship. So what does bring life? What is the single secret, Amanda, to bringing life into my relationship? Well, God just told us right here in verse 7, looking at the heart. Looking at the heart. You see, Samuel was concerned about all of the men's outer appearance. Oh, look at the triceps on this one. Look at the pecs on this guy. Look how tall he is. Look how good looking he is. Lord, he is definitely a man of war. Look at him. So based on the outside, truly, David would have not been the best choice. I mean, let's be real here. If you were going to go out to war, if you wanted a king, would you want a shepherd boy who plays the harp? I most definitely would not. However, God does not look at, here we go, the symptoms. He looks at the root. God looks at the heart. And this is the single secret to you not only surviving, but flourishing in close quarters with your spouse. Now, what do I mean by looking at the heart? There's a book, it's called Raising an Emotionally Intelligent Child. And in this book, it explains that the most important trait of highly effective, empathetic parents is their ability to not only use their heads, but to use their hearts to try to understand what their children are feeling. Like, okay, Amanda, so this is what I mean. They actually did research. Studies were done by a place called Heart Math Institute. And here they revealed that our heart can actually communicate to our brains. Can you imagine that? My heart can communicate to my brain, and it does so in 4 major ways. So again, it makes a whole lot of sense when this book is saying, in order for you to be highly effective with your children, use your heart to feel what your child is feeling. Use their hearts to feel what your child is feeling. And so what are the 4 major ways that your heart can communicate to your brain? The first one is that neurologically through the transmission of nerve impulses. That's the first way. Biochemically, it's through hormones and neurotransmitters. Biophysically, it's through pressure waves. And finally, energetically, it's through the electromagnetic field of interaction. Now, that's a mouthful. What's the name of the book? It's called Raising an Emotionally Intelligent Child. Good question. Now, this research, this study goes on to say this. What's more important is that science has revealed that our hearts have their own heart brain, and it's equipped with, listen to this, 40,000 neurons that can sense and feel, now listen closely, more effectively than your actual brain. Can you imagine that? That my heart can sense and feel more effectively than my brain? The problem is that all too often we rely upon only our brains to rationalize and solve all the problems, when really sometimes we need to engage our hearts. You know why? Because our brains will detect the symptom, but our hearts might be able to detect the roots. This is what God says. Look, Samuel, you are looking at the outer appearance. I want you to go one step deeper. I want you to look at the heart of this boy. His heart is different than the rest of his brothers. And let me give you an example. I'm going to try to give you a bunch of examples. I don't know about you guys, but examples really help me understand maybe topics that are a little bit more complicated. And whenever it gets sciencey, right, with the brains and neurotransmitters, sometimes I can get lost. So let me give you some examples. My oldest by a whole minute, okay, River. I have twin boys, for those of you who know, River and Reed. And River, the oldest by a minute, he has a very bad habit of biting, okay? And so we see him bite and we're like, River, right? I'm always launching myself across the living room or their room because River is most definitely trying to bite Reed. Sometimes he's trying to bite me or Grandma or Papa. He's always trying to bite us. Now, as a surface level, if you saw my son River biting people, you'd be like, what in the world? Does this boy not have parents that teach him not to bite? We need to handle this. That is the symptom. However, because I'm his mother, because I try to allow my heart brain to understand what's going on with my son, I have realized that the symptom is biting, sure, but that the root is that he is extremely frustrated when he cannot articulate what he wants. And so because he has no other options, he can't speak very well. Sometimes he's pointing to us or he's trying to make words that we can't make sense of. And so he gets so frustrated that just in despair, he bites us, right? But if I wasn't willing, remember, I'm trying to erase here what the book says, an emotionally intelligent child who is not only able to see the symptom, but is also willing to go to the root of the problem. Because he cannot articulate, he gets frustrated and he bites. Now, if he was, 5, 6 years old and he was going around biting everyone out, this would be a completely different thing. But he's not even 2 yet. Now, the Bible says something similar about the example I just gave you about our Heavenly Father. In Psalms 103, 13 and 14, it says this, as a father shows compassion to his children, so the Lord shows compassion to those who fear them. For he knows our frame, but he remembers that we are but dust. This is why God is showing compassion to us. This is why I show compassion to River, because in my head, the same way that God says, oh, they are but dust, I have to be patient with them. I have to be compassionate with them. I have to be long-suffering with them. I look at my little boy and I say, he's just a little boy. He's not even 2 yet. And so when he bites, I tell him, I said, hey, River, we don't bite, but show Mama what you want. Show me what you need. And it so happens, right, and Renee can vouch to this, that when he tries to explain himself, and when we figure it out, when we figure out what he's wanting, typically he doesn't bite. Guess what the other reason that he's biting these days? Because his teeth are growing in and it itches. As soon as we give him a frozen pineapple, right, or a frozen strawberry, all of a sudden the biting stops. So just a little example to show you that instead of just being concerned about the symptom, go and dig and dig and dig until you find the root. I had a couple the other day, and the husband came to me and he goes, okay, Amanda, this time I've lost it. And I said, oh gosh, what happened now? He said, Amanda, we're just fighting for the dumbest reasons. I don't understand. I don't get my wife. She is just pesters me about the smallest little thing. I said, okay, what is it? What was the fight about? He goes, she got mad because I didn't place the salt in the right spot for the salt. And he's like, I didn't even know there was a right spot for the salt. And it was so stupid. Are you kidding me? I come home from a long day of work. I get the salt. I use the salt, and then I just put it back in there, and she freaks out. And he goes, what's it? It's just a salt, Amanda. It's just a salt. And I said, well, that's the symptom. The symptom is that you put the salt in the wrong spot. But what's the root? He goes, what do you mean, what's the root? Amanda, this is simple, Amanda. Right? He was saying what John Gottman was saying to the 8-year-old. The money problem is so easy, even an 8-year-old could solve it. But what the 8-year-olds could not see was that there was a whole underlining issue, a root issue that was involved with the money. And the husband couldn't see it either. And so I said, well, ask her. Ask your wife what putting the salt in the wrong spot represents to her. And sure enough, he asked, and she came in and she goes, you know what it represents? It represents that I know you've been working all day. I've been working too, and I come home and I want the house to be clean, and I've made dinner, and I want to receive you well. And you were literally watching me as I was slaving away here in this kitchen. And I was organizing everything. And, she loves that everything is nice and neat. And she was there organizing from, shortest to tallest, right? She was right. Listen, hey, do you? I am not that. I'm not like that. My husband is more particular about these things. And I said, so what's the real reason? What's the root cause? Why are you so upset about the salt? And she goes, Amanda, it has nothing to do with the salt. And I said, of course it does. I said, I know it has nothing to do with the salt, but explain to your husband what it has to do. And she goes, it has to do with the fact that I feel like you're very inconsiderate. I feel that you don't appreciate and value all the hard work that I did to make everything nice and neat and organized, because I love our home, and I want our home to be a place that we both can live well in. And he's like, oh. And he goes, I guess it has nothing to do with the salt. Exactly. And this is why the Bible tells us the story. Do not look at the outside appearance. Look in the heart. Remember, the single secret in you surviving and flourishing in these next few quarantines with your spouse is that you would not stay at the surface level. Don't just look at the symptoms, but ask each other, speak to each other. What does the symptom represent? What is the underlying root of the problem? I'm gonna give him the desk example, Renee. Oh, the desk example. Renee and I went at it a little bit. Okay, this week we sure did. Renee, a few weeks ago, he goes, we don't really fight. And then I thought to myself, well, because you're gone at work all day, that maybe that's why we just haven't had the opportunity to. But now we most definitely have the opportunity to fight. So this is what happens. I work on my desk. I study on my desk. There's a few things. I prepare sermons on my desk. The desk, Renee, is my desk. It is my desk. Okay. He has his desk at work. But all of a sudden, Renee is home from work, and I wake up. I'm out, right? I like to wake up early to do my prayer walks, and so I'm walking up and down. I'm doing my prayer walks, and then Renee comes and meets me for the prayer walk, and we're having a good time together. And then we go back into our room, and then he sits on my desk. And not only does he sit on my desk, okay, but now he's putting all of his computer, and he's putting all of his paperwork, and he's not only sitting on my desk, so he stole my desk, but now he's reorganizing it and saying things like, hey, you have too many books here. I don't have enough space. Do you think we can put this someplace else? And I'm just watching this whole thing, and I'm thinking, I'm about to kill him. I'm about to kill him. Is he kidding right now? And so I was telling him, I said, hey, listen, dude. Renee's like, are you upset? You look a little frustrated. I'm like, yeah, Renee, because you're using my desk. And he goes, Amanda, come on, it's just a desk. And I said, here's the thing, Reed. And so we didn't really engage right in that moment about it. I had to go. He was using the desk, and here I was now going outside or finding elsewhere to do some work without River and Reed being nearby. And sure enough, that night we discussed it, and he goes, Amanda, I don't get it. It's just a desk. Why are you so upset about the desk? And I said, Renee, listen, the symptom is it's just a stupid desk. But the root is what it made me feel is that you somehow think that your job is more important than my job. You just, waltz in here, and all of a sudden it's your desk. I said, I know at the surface it seems really stupid. It's just a desk. And I said, listen, and because you were going to work on it all day, I just need the desk for a couple of hours. If you would have just said, hey, babe, I really need to use your desk. I know you have to use your desk. Is there something we could do? Is there a compromise? Is there somewhere else that I could go? Or maybe can I use a desk because I'm going to spend more time on it? If we would have had that conversation, I would have been like, absolutely, Renee. I mean, use a desk. You're definitely going to be sitting in it longer than me. And I would have, done my work here like I am now in this gazebo, and I'm sweating, right? I would have done it here in this gazebo. I said, but Renee, the fact that you just assumed that just because you're home you get to use the desk, it kind of hurt my feeling. It made me feel like you were like inconsiderate about my work and about my clients and about all the things that I had to do. And so, again, I want you guys to start paying attention to the symptom and the root. The symptom and the root. And I want you guys to ask, oh, Renee literally took off her shirt. Okay. Renee took off her shirt and handed me her shirt to wipe my face. It really looks good to the left of me. So I'm going to start just focusing here forward. I want you guys to ask these two questions because remember, this is a question you asked me this morning as I was talking to Renee and kind of telling him about the symptom and the root and the symptom and the root. And Renee's like, oh, like I like, he understood the desk argument. Like, it wasn't about the desk, right? So he understood that desk argument. But then he asked me a question. He asked me two questions, and maybe it's questions that you have. He's like, okay, Amanda, so you were really good at articulating what was the root problem for you. And then Renee says, and you're also really good at knowing what is the root causes of the things that are going on with me. So he goes, the first question, does the other not have responsibility? And by that, he meant that does he not have responsibility to know what is going on at my, let's say, if he wasn't aware of what was going on at the root, if I am constantly, I'm very self-reflective, okay? So if I'm constantly self-reflecting and telling him, does he not have the responsibility to find out what my root is? But then it's also a second part question, which is, hold on, how am I going to say this? Does the other not have responsibility, which is that? Did Renee not have the responsibility to know what was the root cause of the symptom issue of we were fighting about a desk? And then the second question is, does the other then not need to change? Does the other not need to change? So some people are very unaware of what's going on with them, right? Some people are very unaware of what's going on with them. So they'll yell or they'll get upset or they'll get defensive, and they'll truly believe that it's about the money or it's about the deck or it's about the salt, right? But they're not reflecting to, Amanda, so does that person not have to change? Is that person not going to realize? And so with these two questions, I'm going to give another example that Renee's not going to like. He hates it when I share about him, but who else am I going to share about, right? And so, I mean, Renee, how many people are on this thing? 18. Only about 18 people will know, okay? I know this is going to be recorded, but we're just going to pretend 18 people are going to know. You 18 special people will know. So last week, Renee did surgery, and he did a vasectomy, right? And so Renee, I know he's already nodding no. I know, I'm sorry, but it's a really great example. So he did a vasectomy, and he was so grumpy, okay? He was so grumpy, and he was just in a bad mood, and I'm like, man, what is going on? My mom even said, what is wrong with Renee? Why is he in such a bad mood? Why is he so grumpy? And he was just being like, he didn't have patience, and Renee's usually a patient person. So any little thing, he was just like on my case about it, or like just in a bad mood. And I thought about it, man, what is up with this guy? So I know everyone is shocked here at 19. Listen, when you have twin boys at the perfection that is River and Reed, we're not gonna make him that good anymore. We are done. Shop is closed, okay? I know everyone's freaking out here, but I promise you, Renee's okay now. But listen, so he was upset, he was grumpy, he was this, he was that, and I had this in my mind, and I would like kind of like go back and forth with him a little bit, like, dude, why are you so impatient? Why are you so grumpy? Like, what is wrong with you? I have no idea. And then it just dawned on me. I'm like, oh my goodness, like, hold on. So the symptom was Renee was grumpy, and I'm not used to a grumpy Renee, okay? Because Renee is not grumpy. And so I was completely taken aback. But the root was that he had surgery, and so I thought, okay, I think it's because he's in pain. And so sure enough, when we went walking one Sunday morning for our prayer walks together, I said, hey, like, what's going on with you? You've just been grumpy. Like, is it something that I did? Like, what is going on? And he's like, I don't know. I'm just so grumpy. And so I asked, I said, are you in pain? And he goes, not really. The pain's been going away. It's kind of uncomfortable. And then throughout the conversation, I kept talking, I kept prying, and I kept asking, well, what about this? Well, what about this? And then he just blurted out of nowhere. He's like, Amanda, do you understand that I haven't been able to pick up the boys? And so I thought, oh, that's what it is. He's feeling inept. He's all grumpy and mad and upset because, well, he can't pick up River and Reed. There were some things that had to get done here in the house. right? He couldn't do a lot of the stuff that he was willing to do. He couldn't work out. He couldn't do one of his favorite activities with me in our bedroom. He couldn't do a lot of these things, and he was grumpy. My mom even says, Amanda, please have sex with that boy. So you see, that was the underlining root here. If I would have stayed at the symptom, we would have just been fighting back and forth because Renee was being rude and he was being short and he was being impatient. And I mean, of course, it had to happen on this. But sure enough, the day that he went to go get his vasectomy, he was mowing the lawn and he ran over, what was it? What did you run over? The pipe? No, the water thing. Well pipe. Renee ran over our well pipe, and so no water was going to the house. So before his vasectomy, he literally, you see the pond behind us, he jumped into the pond to take a shower because there was no water inside the house. When he came back, we still had no water, and he was literally telling me what to do. He's like, okay, do this, like put duct tape here. And he was just feeling so inept. He's like, okay, there's something wrong with this. I can fix it. I know how to fix it, and I'm not able to fix it because it's, this dang surgery. And so all these things just started piling up throughout the entire week. And so I hope that you guys are starting. Renee, do a little questionnaire there. Does that make sense? Are you clear on what a root is versus what a symptom is? So Renee's going to send a little poll there. So send me a yes if I'm making sense. Send me a yes if I've made myself clear at what a root is and what a symptom is, and how sometimes we get so caught up with the symptom that we miss the root, the underlying issue of what is going on in our spouse's heart. Okay, in our spouse's heart. Okay, we're getting tons of yes here. So now I have a little worksheet for you guys. So I'm gonna go here. This thing is so fancy. Renee set this whole thing up obviously because he's gonna send there. He's gonna send you guys a little handout that we created that's going to help you even further understand the whole root and symptom. It's an activity that you can do in your home so that you can get even more comfortable with the root and the symptom. Every time you have an argument, every time you're thinking, I want you to think of what is the symptom. So he's going to send it there, and this worksheet is going to look very much like this. Okay, so there it says protecting your marriage against coronavirus, and then part 1. This is the part 1, the activity that we got for this first webinar, and it's a very simple activity. So in the middle here you have the symptom, and on the outside circle you have your root. So I want you to write here, you can use this activity in 2 ways. You can use it for yourself, or you can use it for your spouse. So for example, I could have put here symptom. Symptom is Renee's a grumpy pants, right? Renee's being negative Nancy. That would be the symptom. And the root, I would start putting, okay, let me think about this. Maybe he's in pain with the surgery. And then throughout the week, I got more and more information. Oh, he feels upset because he can't hold on to River and Reed. He feels inept because he couldn't fix something that broke in the house. And so look, all of my roots started to pile up. So now no longer am I focusing on the symptom, but how can I facilitate Renee's life? How can I dig, and how can I say, okay, Renee is saying he's upset because he can't fix something around the house. How can I help him? And so we had to call someone to do it. Renee said that he's upset because he can't hold River and Reed. Okay, Reed, what if you sit down and you hold the boys? And so we figured that we have a UTV that they love using. I said, Renee, how about you drive and they'll sit on your lap? And so all of these things throughout the week, he started to become in a better mood. If I just fought with him, Renee, you're so grumpy, get over it, stop being upset, I would have missed all the reasons why. And then guess what? When I stopped focusing on the symptom and helped with the root, all of a sudden, the symptom would disappeared. Of course, the symptom disappeared. And so, and then you can also do this with yourself. So let's say the symptom was, Amanda, why did you get so upset about a stupid desk, right? That was a symptom. Let's say, had an over-exaggeration because of a desk. But when I did this, when I started thinking and reflecting, I said, what is it about the desk? I thought, oh, this is what it is. It's because it's making me feel like Renee doesn't value my job. And it made me feel like he was inconsiderate and that he didn't value. And so I started to work through it. And then I could first tell myself, understand what was going on with me. And then I could better communicate with Renee exactly what was going on. So now the second part of this activity, that's the first part. You do it, you can maybe do it together. You can do it together, and that you can find something that you always fight about. So let's say I always fight about because the house is a mess. We always fight because of money. We always fight because of in-laws. Find the symptom, find the thing that you always fight about, and then together work on all the root issues. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you? And finally, as you self-reflect, I want you to think this. What is my heart telling me? I need you to start thinking about your thinking, like I just said there, right? For me, it was more than just a desk. And the second thing is, what is your spouse's heart telling you? We need to change our mind from looking so negatively towards our spouses. So you know what I did? I'm going to literally work through how my brain works with you guys. So I got upset about the desk, and my feelings are Renee is so inconsiderate, Renee doesn't care, Renee doesn't value your job. All of these thoughts, right, these negative thoughts started flooding into my head. First step, Amanda, what does this really mean to you? I found out what it actually was representing. Step 2, I started to doubt my negative thinking about Renee. And I would say things like, Renee's not inconsiderate. And I would start telling my brain the reasons why Renee isn't inconsiderate. Renee isn't inconsiderate because he's home working, but he asked me if I needed help with the boys. Renee's not inconsiderate because when he came down, he said, hey, let me prepare lunch for the two of us. I said, hold on, Renee is not inconsiderate. So I started to doubt my negative thinking about Renee. And this is only possible when we find the root and the symptom. I thought the symptom is right now that Renee's being inconsiderate towards me. The root is, Renee doesn't overthink about things the way I think. And I started to ask him, I said, Renee, do you understand? Renee's like, Amanda, I just thought it was a desk, and the rational, Renee's an engineer, okay? He's uber rational. And he thought, I didn't think it was a big deal because I just assumed that since I was going to use it more, that you wouldn't mind. And usually, you can just do your paperwork. I see you reading outside, so I thought it wasn't a big deal. So it didn't even cross his mind, right? Which is why I had to start doubting my negative thinking, saying, Renee did not mean to harm me in the way that I feel harmed right now. And it really took, remember, Renee, it took a few times going back and forth, and he was literally like, Amanda, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. And so I had to say, this was like the key. And so I said this, listen, Renee, I know your heart. Because I know your heart, I know you weren't trying to purposely make me upset. I know your heart, so I know you're not inconsiderate towards me. But my feelings are showing otherwise. And it was like, oh, and then I said, I'm not saying that my feelings make any sense. They don't, because I know your heart. But this is what I'm trying to struggle with right now. Then he started going overboard with this. He would say every morning, he's like, hey, is it okay for me to use your desk? I said, yes, Renee, it's okay for you to use my desk. And then we made fun of it. We made light of it. And I know this is a very silly example, but more and more it will come up. And if you don't know the underlying root, if you're not willing to wrestle with that, you're going to think you're fighting about something that you are not fighting about, okay? So write this down. Keep this in mind. Renee is going to send you a little chat there with these words. The word is fact, faith, feeling. This is how you're going to doubt your negative thinking. What is the fact? Go through an inventory there and start saying all the things that you are thankful for about your spouse. If you're thinking, my spouse doesn't care about me, write down all the ways that he has demonstrated or she has demonstrated that she does care about you, that he does care about you. That is fact. Fact will lead to faith, or another word, we can use trust in your spouse. And finally, then the positive feelings will start to come up. So express gratitude. This is how you're going to doubt your negative thinking. So, guys, we are coming to an end here. We are 48 minutes in. What is the single secret to surviving and flourishing in close quarters? Look at the heart. Find what is the root issues of the fights that maybe you've already had, are having, or will have because you are in close quarters. Don't have negative lenses on. Don't always have a negative bias. Oh, they're this way. Oh, they don't care about me. They don't value me. No. Start doubting your negative thinking with facts and start thinking about your own thinking and figuring out, what does this truly mean to you? It isn't just about the desk. It isn't just about the soul. Okay? Finally, two more verses that I want to share with you here. The first one is found in Psalms 26:2, and it says this: test me, Lord, Try me, examine my heart. Take this in prayer. If anyone is a reader of hearts, it's Jesus Christ. And if you go to him and ask him, Lord, reveal to me what is going on in my heart. Reveal to me what is going on in my spouse's heart. God will help you do just that. I've seen him do it all the time. So ask the Lord to test and examine your heart, and then ask the Lord to help you test and examine your spouse's heart. And guys, please don't be satisfied with the symptoms. Keep digging for the root, because when you do, you know what will happen? The promise in Luke 6:48. Now, you just heard me talk for 49 minutes and counting. And this information will not be useful to you unless you apply it. Jesus says something similar. Luke 6:48 says this, as for everyone who comes to me and hears my word and puts them into practice, right? So people who are not only hearers, but they're doers, which is what I'm asking you guys to do. Apply, apply, apply. So Jesus says, not only hears my word, but puts them into practice. Look at what he says. I will show you what they are like. Jesus is like, hey, I'm going to tell you what these people are like. He is the man building a house who dug deep, laid the foundation on the rock, and when the floods arose, or we can say when coronavirus arose, when the streams broke against the house, it could not be shaken because it was well built. The foundation, the single secret is that you are not going to focus on the symptoms, but you are going to be willing to dig through communication, through compassion, through patience, through understanding, through lots and lots of open-ended questions. Because I don't know about you, but Renee is worth it for me to spend a little time with him trying to figure out what is going on in his heart. Is your spouse the same? Are you willing to wrestle and to dig and to dig and to dig to find the real reason? Because when you do, then you can start healing the roots. And when the roots are healed, guess what else is healed? The symptom is healed, all right? So that's it. Start building this foundation. Don't just be hearers, be doers. Be doers. Now, I'm going to open up a little bit here in our last 10 minutes. I want to ask you guys if you could do a favor for me. So the first thing that I wanted to ask for you guys to do is to continue to share this, right? Today is part 1. We're going to have parts 2, 3, and 4 every single Saturday coming up. You're going to be receiving emails to keep you updated with this whole thing. And the second thing that I ask you to do, maybe if you don't feel comfortable sharing it here in the chat, don't worry about it. Is there an option to send a private? So Renee here is saying that there's an option for you to send me a private message. If you just put at and then Amanda, you can send me a private message. If you can't figure it out, you can send me an email, right? An email? Renee's going to put my email there, and you can just message me through my email directly. What are some of the questions that you have? What are some of the things that you are struggling with or wrestling with during these quarantines? I want to make sure that I get to your questions and provide you good answers here so that we can go through this thing together. Because guys, we can use this quarantine as an opportunity to strengthen our marriage, to have better connection. And unfortunately, it seems to be the cases with some of my clients that it's really pulling them apart. So we need to do something now to prepare. And finally, I want to share this little research. I just remembered it here. They did a research with LA couples, and they found that these couples in LA, that they were spending 35 minutes of face-to-face time together. And you might be thinking, oh, that's not too bad, Amanda. 35 minutes of face-to-face time per day. No. 35 minutes of face-to-face conversation and communication, 35 minutes per week. Can you imagine that? That's crazy. Now, if that wasn't worse, to make matters even worse, these 35 minutes wasn't even about like dreams and fears and, them trying to find the symptoms and the root of their problems. No. These 35 minutes were spent with to-do lists. Like, hey, did you pick up the kid from school? Oh, you forgot to get the milk again. Are you kidding me? Are you stupid? It was these kinds of conversation. Okay, so we don't want that to be the case for us. So let's build a strong foundation. Send me your questions. If you have any questions right now about what I just discussed, send it now. I'm going to try to answer it. I'm going to try to answer some of your questions now if you have it. If not, you can send it to my email. I'm getting thank you messages. Thank you, you guys. This was fun, right? Renee and I now have a fun activity to do Saturday evening. So you're bored, I'm bored. We're gonna be here together. Giovanna says you guys are doing an awesome job. Me and June and Kim are like, oh yeah, yes, definitely. Roxanne, thanks Amanda, love the presentation. Defensive, definitely an eye opener. Yes, for us too. When I share this information with Renee, because he's my first client. He's my filter because then he has a different brain than I do. So he's always asking me questions and things that I didn't think about. Like, well, isn't it the responsibility of the person to be able to just express their symptoms? And I said, yeah, Ree, but think about it like this. Oh, that was the interesting point that I forgot to mention. How, remember when I started to tell you about what was going on inside of my heart with what's it called, with the whole death thing? And then when I said, remember when you were grumpy about your surgery, and then you started saying, oh yeah, that was a symptom, but the roots for me was that I couldn't pick up River and read. And so I was able to mirror that to Renee. I was able to say, hey Renee, look, I'm trying to sit down and find my roots, and because I was able to mirror that to him, he literally mirrored it back to me in another instance. So it was really awesome. Rafael is saying, can I find you on social media? Yes, we are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. You can follow our YouTube channel where every single week we are posting videos. We post between 1 or 2 videos per week on YouTube, so you can subscribe there. And then on our Instagram, we post shorter clips of the full YouTube. So you can watch the full version on YouTube or these little short, bite-sized clips on Instagram that will give you immediate help. All right. All right, I think that's it. You're welcome, everyone, and I will see you guys again next Saturday at 3. We had an awesome time. Oh, just in time. Keo was barking. I got Keo and Jax here surrounding us. All righty, guys. Until next time, thank you so much. I'm going to end with a quick prayer here. There you go. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity to be together. Lord, today we have understood the secret of not only surviving but flourishing as we go through coronavirus is that we need to find the heart issue, and the heart issue is really the root issue. Symptoms, Lord, are things that we might be fighting our whole lives over. The in-laws, the money, the kids, whatever. We don't want to keep fighting about the same things over and over and over again. We don't want to simply just we can't just heal a symptom without first taking out the root. So today, we want to build a stronger foundation in our marriages. So we're going to dig and we're going to pull out the root we're going to pull out all of these roots so that, Lord, the symptoms can go away. We don't just want to see behavior modifications in our marriage. We want to see heart transformation take care in our marriage. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. All righty, bye, guys. Okay, I'm going to end it. Renee said I have to end it. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. See you later. Here, Renee. Renee is here's Renee. We're here together. Bye, guys. We'll see you guys next time.